I'm Brandon Smith, and I'm the workplace therapist. My entire purpose and passion in life is one singular thing, and that's to help you live a life free from dysfunction. And let's be honest, folks, dysfunction is everywhere. Our bosses, our coworkers, our neighbors, even that grumpy barista that pours your coffee. And sometimes, that dysfunction stares back at us in the face when we're getting ready in the mornings and we see ourselves in the mirror. Well, at the end of the day, life and work should not have to suck. The purpose of this show is to help you overcome those roadblocks in your life to help you realize the life you've always wanted. This is the Brandon Smith Show. I'm your host, Brandon Smith, and the entire purpose of this show is one singular thing, and that is to make your life just a little bit better and a little less dysfunctional. So for our topic today, I've got a great topic and a great guest. We're going to talk about candor, and we're going to talk about the lack of candor, people just being honest with each other and having some of those difficult conversations. So to help us kind of walk through this important topic, I've got Keith Hicks. Keith, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks, Brandon. I'm very glad to be here.
Yeah, so I'm excited about this topic of candor, and I know you are too. In fact, you said yesterday you were just talking about this. So tell us a little bit about, before we jump into candor, tell us about you. How did you kind of get into this in the first place, and what's kind of been your journey up to this point?
Yeah, sure. So I founded my own consulting business after I retired from the corporate world, and I'm a leadership coach and consultant. So I focus on leadership. But prior to that, for 30 years, I was in a corporate setting, primarily as an HR executive. Started my career with a company that some people have heard of. It's called Accenture, a global...
I think I've heard of them before.
Yeah, global technology and information services firm, consulting firm. And I was with them for a good long time, 21 years, as a matter of fact.
Wow.
And I led human resources for the U.S. business at Accenture. And when I left Accenture, I joined another much smaller company called Radiant Systems, based right here in Alpharetta, or at least it was. And I was the head of HR for Radiant Systems for about 6 years.
Cool.
And then went on from there to be the chief people officer for a company called Med Assets.
Awesome.
Which also doesn't exist anymore. Both of those companies were acquired by other companies. But anyway, after about 30 years and my exit from Med Assets, I decided I'm going to start consulting and focus on the things that I really love, which is leadership and developing people.
See, I'm so glad that I did kick it off to have you introduce yourself. Normally, I might say a few words about my guest, but I struggle with that with you because you have worn so many awesome hats, which makes it so perfect for this topic of candor, because you've been a consultant, so you've worked with organizations that deal with this. You've led HR functions, so you know how important this is internally. And now you work directly with teams and individuals and leaders on this very topic.
That's exactly right.
So I love it. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's dive into this messy thing called candor. Why is this even an issue today? Tell us what you see.
Yeah. So you, as you mentioned, just yesterday, I was with an executive team of a technology firm based right here in Alpharetta. And we were talking about this lack of candor in the workplace. And if you think about it, that's one of the key missing ingredients of a successful organization is people talking honestly.
Just being honest with each other.
Being honest with each other about what's going on. And think about this for a second. How many times have you sat in a meeting, in a corporate setting, you're sitting in a meeting, listening politely to some PowerPoint presentation, somebody droning on about something, and you're twiddling your thumbs, and you're just wondering,
I'm actually holding my thumbs right now, but
God.
I'm not twiddling them. I'm really not.
You're not twiddling?
No.
But you're thinking to yourself, gosh, when is this meeting going to end so we can start the real conversation, which always happens outside the meeting, usually in private, behind somebody's back.
So unproductive.
So unproductive, exactly. So, I think candor is one of those things that can completely derail, or the lack of candor, I should say, derail a team and really derail an organization if you don't have candor.
So I totally get it. Why do you think that is? What is it about us as people that's like, I just can't, I want to tell you something, but I just don't want to, but I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. So number one, candor, being truly candid with somebody can put you in an uncomfortable situation because it's, it can be uncomfortable. And listen, from the time that you were 18 months old, your parents probably told you, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. And so to give somebody some really truly honest feedback that's usually, critical or constructive, we've kind of been told our whole life, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. And then when you enter the business world, you're told, keep it professional, be professional, which sort of means don't bring the personal, don't care too much, just keep it professional. And so don't say anything bad and don't get too close. Those two things prevent candor. And if you think about what candor really is, it's having the courage to challenge somebody directly while doing it coming from a very caring place. You care about the individual and you want to help them.
Okay, so let me restate that because I think what you said was super profound and important. So coming at a place where you're being honest and sharing something really honest with the person, grounded in kind of this idea of really caring for them.
That's exactly right.
Okay, so if we don't care for them, then it could come across more like a blunt instrument.
Well, it's very interesting. You can think about this kind of in a 4-quadrant model, right? And consultant, you always have to have a 4-quadrant model. So let me talk about this 4-quadrant model. And actually, this model was developed by an organization called Radical Candor.
Okay.
There's a whole industry around cottage industry around candor because it's so lacking and so important in the workplace. So if you think about this 4-quadrant model, if you're truly speaking to somebody, you're challenging them directly, but doing it in a caring way where you truly personally care about them and want to help them. Think about challenging directly on the x-axis and think about caring personally on the y-axis, right?
Okay.
And if you're in that upper right-hand corner, you care personally and you're challenging directly, that's called radical candor. But think about it in the other 3 boxes. What if you're challenging somebody directly, but you just don't really care? That's just obnoxious aggression, right?
Yeah,
it's like
totally.
a blood instrument. On the other hand, what if you really care about the person, but you can't bring yourself to challenge them directly? So you're giving them feedback that's so sugar-coated, they don't even get it. So,
you know what we call that down here in the South?
What do you call that?
Bless your heart. Bless your heart, Keith.
We call it ruinous empathy. So, and then there's the far left bottom quadrant. You're not going to challenge them directly, and you really don't care. What? Right? What's that? Manipulative insincerity. Right? You're just not going to tell them anything at all. So the trick to having candor in a workplace is to really care, show you care, and come at it from I want to help this person. And to help this person, I'm going to give them this feedback.
So let me ask you this, because I'm really curious about this idea. Because I can come in for the first time I meet somebody and be like, I really care about you. They may not really believe that because it's the first time we met.
Right.
How long does it take to build that foundation before you can really go to the next level and say, now I really want to have some tough conversations with you?
It's a super important point because if you come right out of the bat having some tough conversations, that's the obnoxious aggression, right?
Yeah.
But you've got to build that relationship, right? Just like with any coworker, it takes time to build a relationship, which I think is so important in a business setting, to have honest, meaningful relationships with your coworkers, with your colleagues.
Yeah.
And once you have those relationships, then you start caring.
Okay, so I'm going to be totally unfair here. I'm going to see if you can help us put a date or a timeline around this. Because I've seen cases where new leaders come into an organization and they've been tasked to change things.
Right.
And they immediately come in there and start having tough conversations.
Yeah.
And people experience them as aggressive, bullies.
Sure. Because they haven't built trust with anybody. They haven't built any trust.
Is it 90 days before you can start having some of these? Is it 6 months? I'm totally being unfair to you.
Totally unfair.
What do you think?
Like anything, it depends.
Oh
my
what a
goodness.
good professorly answer.
It just depends.
You should totally be a professor. That's all you have to say is professor. It depends. As a therapist, you just say more about that. As a professor, you just say it depends.
Well, I would say certainly it takes weeks and months to build a trusting relationship before you can really be candid with somebody.
But what I like what you're saying, though, is it does require that building relationship, which is why we always talk to managers and leaders about preserving their one-on-ones.
Yeah.
Right? Having your one-on-ones, particularly when you're a new leader. Really spend that time
developing. And here's another
that.
thing. If you're a new leader, get outside the office with your team, individual. Take somebody to lunch, meet somebody for coffee, get them out of the office. That's a way to build a relationship faster. Just, show that you care. Find out about them. Ask about their life outside of work. And if you can truly do that, they'll see that you care. They'll see that you care.
Go out of the office, have coffee with them, learn more about their life, their goals, their
family,
their stuff going on,
their history.
Build that. Invest in that.
In that relationship, and then you can start having candid conversations.
So it goes back to the whole bank account analogy, right? Like
absolutely.
Pour into that, so you've got something in the bank account.
You have to build that trust.
When we have that candor, in some ways, you could be making a withdrawal from that bank account, or a potential withdrawal, depending upon how they see it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So you want to make sure there's something there before you start to say, "Hey, this thing you're doing over here, it's not working."
That's right.
You got to fix that.
So we all generally avoid this candor thing. And I kind of talked about why. I don't know. There's a book you've probably read, and many of our listeners may have read too, called "The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team."
Totally.
Patrick Lencioni, and he talks about, and the flip side of it is the 5 behaviors of a highly effective team, and 2 of those behaviors he talks about. One of them is mastering conflict, and the other one is embracing accountability. So of the 5 behaviors of a highly effective team, those are 2 of them. And if you think about those 2, they absolutely require candor. To be able to have a truly honest, candid conversation with your colleague. If you think about conflict, how a team manages and addresses conflict. Conflict is about discussing issues and ideas. So if there's an issue on the table, I got to be able to discuss it in an open way instead of trying to avoid it. Accountability is holding somebody accountable for their performance or perhaps their behaviors. Again, if I see somebody not performing well, not behaving well, not living by our values, I got to be able to talk to them about that and to help them get better and help the team get better. And when those are missing, the team's never going to function.
So as you were talking, it made me almost think of an additional definition of candor. It's almost countering someone else's self-perception.
Yeah.
Whether it's about their ideas, you're like, yeah, I see why you see that, but I disagree. Or about their performance. I'm like, yeah, you may think you're doing a great job, but actually that's not what we need for you to be doing.
Or
and that can be threatening because I have this perception about how I see myself.
Yeah, that's right.
Or what I believe. And you're going to challenge that.
Yeah.
And that's an uncomfortable place.
Yeah, and that is an uncomfortable place, and it's natural for people to avoid that, right? As humans, we naturally avoid discomfort.
Yeah. So we're going to go into the break in just a second. And as we move into the break, I want you to be thinking about this question. Okay?
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Got it.
Here it is.
What is it?
Here it comes.
Come on.
Okay. Does candor differ and vary by region in the United States and even the world, or by industry? Okay, you got it?
Got it.
So does it vary? So if we're in the Southeast versus the Northeast,
yeah,
does it look a little different?
I got it.
Okay. So for all of our listeners, stay tuned for your answer. We're going to be taking a short break, and we'll be right back.
Job plus the right culture plus the right boss equals workplace happiness. The number one reason people leave jobs is problems with their boss. A horrible boss can make us dread every Monday, but an amazing boss can make us so excited to work that we'd go in on weekends. Finding your perfect boss is not only possible, it's one of the most impactful steps you can take in crafting your perfect career. Visit theworkplacetherapist.com and click on guides to learn how to find and get your perfect boss, whether that means making the decision to move on or turning your current boss into the perfect leader you want them to be. Our bosses have so much influence over our work and our whole day. Working for the right boss alone can be a winning career strategy.
This is the Brandon Smith Show. We are coming back from break, and I am excited on today's show to have Keith Hicks, my good friend and colleague, to talk about Candor today. So when we went into break, I posed this question to Keith. I said, now Keith, tell us about Candor, but specifically, does it vary by region and vary by industry? Okay, so that was kind of our cliffhanger. So Keith, what do you think?
I think it definitely varies by region.
Okay.
If you think about, we're sitting here in the Southeast. Southeast is kind of a...
We're super candid folks down here, aren't we?
Well, bless your heart. Bless your heart for saying that.
Not
no,
really.
We're not.
We're really not.
We're really not. We're just, we're nice, right? And we feel that it's better to say nothing and then go talk about you behind your back. Whereas in the Northeast is completely different. The Northeast, very direct, And when a Northeasterner comes down to the Southeast and starts giving their opinion,
it's like organ rejection.
Exactly, organ rejection. So I think it does differ by region. And in a business setting, though, I think these principles apply no matter where you are, no matter what industry you're in, no matter what region of the country you're in. This principle around candor is so important, whether it's in a team setting, in a meeting, being candid, or whether it's just one-on-one with a colleague, and you're trying to give them some feedback to be helpful.
Yeah, I heard a leader once describe, on the poles, there's harmony and conflict.
Yeah.
In the Southeast, harmony trumps conflict.
Harmony trumps conflict.
In the Northeast, conflict will trump harmony. And I would say, my experience has been that the regions generally rule the roost. So if you can have an investment banker in the Southeast, they're still going to be a little nicer, a little more harmonious than an investment banker in the Northeast.
Yeah.
And investment banking is known for extreme candor.
Yeah.
To the point of blunt instrument. Right? Take out the caring part and just give candor. That's a
talk about obnoxious aggression.
That's the reputation of investment bankers. Not true for all of them, but the reputation.
Sure.
But I've also seen, though, in some industries where it varies. If you're in more of a so banking is a good example. If it's more transactional, like investment banking, it's more you're more likely to have candor. If you're in more of a service industry, where it's hospitality or some other where service matters, relationships matter.
Yeah.
Maybe even professional services, they may be a little more inclined to be more harmonious because that's part of the face you have to put on with the client.
I would agree with that. I think that's right.
There can be some of those subtle differences across industries depending upon your culture and where it kind of maps to your business model.
Yeah, and I think, and it certainly varies by company because what you just said is absolutely right, culture. And as we know that every company has got its own unique culture, right? And there are a number of companies who operate with this concept of nice. We want to be nice. And it's...
Well, don't we like nice?
We like nice, but unfortunately it avoids the tough discussions, right? And in those nice companies, people will just hold their tongue until they walk out of the room, and then they'll talk about you behind your back. Okay, and that does nobody any good.
So what can we do? So now we're getting to the point in the show where we've got to figure out how do we fix this thing.
Yeah, how do we fix it?
We've clearly established the candor's an issue. It's a big problem. What are some things we can be doing?
Yeah, so there's three things that you can be doing to address candor. So let's talk about candor in a meeting setting. Companies are full of meetings, and we know that. And in many respects, that's where the candor is most lacking in meeting settings. And so number one, you can break the group into smaller pieces. And so let me talk about this for a second. Number one, break the group into smaller pieces. Anytime you've got a team meeting with 5 or more people, what happens in those meetings is that the people with the loudest voices, the people who are most outspoken, they're the ones who are going to speak up and whose voices get heard. The people who might be a little more reserved, a little more introverted, aren't going to say anything. And so if you break the meeting up, say you're discussing an issue, and you want everybody's opinion, break the meeting up into smaller groups of 2 or 3 people.
Okay.
Let them talk about the issue, and then everybody brings the issue back for a group discussion.
So it can be even as small as 2 or 3.
Oh, absolutely. It can be as small as 2 people. And way, the person who's got who's a little more introverted, who might have a disagreement with the idea or the issue being discussed, they can state it. They can say, you know what, here's why I don't like it. But they would never say that in a larger group setting.
Okay, so you get more voices heard, and
More
it makes
voices
it
heard.
makes it a little more balanced.
Absolutely.
Okay, I love that. Okay, so break meetings into smaller groups. That's our first one.
Yeah, break meetings in smaller groups. So number 2 is to designate a Yoda. Okay, now hold on to your hats for this one.
I like
okay.
Yoda.
Okay,
No,
so
you had me at Yoda. So really, I'm good.
You remember the Jedi Master in Star Wars, right? Yoda. So the idea of designating a Yoda in your meeting is that Yoda, that person, and you can rotate this responsibility for every meeting, but that Yoda, they're looking for at times when candor is not being displayed, when something is going unsaid, when somebody is holding their tongue and refusing to speak up, and their job is to call that out. And that's their sole job in the meeting.
So they'll call things out. Do they make profound statements like do or do not? There is no try. Can they say?
Not so much.
No,
really,
can't.
they're really.
But they can do that if they want to.
They could, I suppose, if they're really into the Yoda thing.
To be a Yoda.
But their job is to really say, Brandon, I can tell you're not saying something that's on your mind. What's on your mind? That's their job.
Okay, so but now seriously, do you rotate that role?
Yeah, you can absolutely. I mean, it's up to the leader to decide. Do they want to have a? I like the idea of rotating it because you don't want they're not always actively participating in the discussion because they're really looking at the room. They're looking at the nonverbals. They're looking at what's happening in the room that's not being said. So you really have to pay attention to people's behavior, as less so than the actual topic that's being discussed. So the reason I like to rotate it is so that they're not always left out of the discussion. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think the other benefit of rotating is people don't start associating their feeling with that person.
Totally agree.
Like every
Absolutely.
time I get in the meeting, Keith's the Yoda, and every time he calls me out.
Right, exactly.
Now I don't like Keith anymore.
That's right.
So it allows that, it dilutes that and decouples it so it's not the person, it's the role.
That's right. And you know what? Just by being a Yoda, it's actually practicing this candidness. Because as a Yoda, you got to be willing to speak up. Brandon, I see you're not saying something. That takes a little bit of courage, right? And to challenge somebody directly, I see you're not saying what you need to say. So give everybody that opportunity.
Okay, so we've talked about breaking meetings up into smaller groups. We've talked about designating a Yoda.
Yeah.
What else?
The third thing, and this one's important in a group setting or individual setting. This one's important at home, in your personal life, in your work life, everywhere, which is to teach people caring criticism. So let me unpack that a little bit.
Okay.
So we talked about this, this 4-quadrant, right? The willingness to challenge someone directly, but do it in a caring and from a place where you're trying to help the person. That's what this teaching caring criticism is all about. If you think about when somebody is giving you feedback, either they're disagreeing with your idea or they're giving you tough performance feedback or whatever, that is actually a gift. A lot of people don't receive it as a gift. They get defensive or they get their feelings hurt. But if someone has the courage to tell you, hey, I think you could do this better, or here's why your idea isn't going to work, that's a gift. And so as a recipient, you need to know how to receive that. But even more importantly, or just as importantly, the person giving it has to know how to give it. And they have to do it from a caring place. And what I mean by that is if you're giving somebody feedback, if your intent is to hurt them, guess how that's going to come across and guess how that's going to be received. But if your intent is to help them because you truly care, guess how that's going to be received. And so here's a trick that I tell people. When you want to give someone some feedback, perhaps some constructive criticism, and you want to be candid, ask their permission. Something like this. Hey, Brandon, can I give you some feedback? Or, Brandon, can I make an observation? Or something like this. Brandon, can I share something with you? Now, doesn't that feel a lot better to you than if I just said, Brandon, your idea stinks and here's why?
Yeah, so you're inviting me to be a part of that.
I'm inviting you to be a part of it.
Of course, I could just say, no, I'm good.
No, I'm good. I don't want your feedback.
I'm good.
99% of the people on the planet will say,
That's
sure,
right,
what
they
is
will.
it? And that opens them up and it immediately drops their defenses.
And then they're much more, hopefully, ideally more receptive to that.
That's exactly right.
And I think that's also good. I think that the other important thing that I would add to that is, when in doubt, clarify your intentions. So
when in doubt, clarify.
So you may have positive intentions for the person. State it. Like here's the deal. I'm giving you this because I really care about you. I could see where you could go in your career, and I wouldn't want to see this thing hold you back, or whatever that is.
I'm trying to help you. I truly am.
Set that up. That almost matters more than the actual message itself.
That's right.
I think people go right into the message and they
Yeah.
don't. The setup matters so much.
That's right.
So it's more likely to be received.
And so here's, I said there were 3 things you can do to encourage candor, and we talked about those. Break meetings up to smaller pieces. Designate a Yoda. Excuse me, not a yoga, but a Yoda. A Yoda. And teach caring criticism. But wait, there's a 4th bonus
Okay,
idea.
give us the bonus.
Talk about this concept of candor with your teams, with your colleagues, and the importance of it.
So get them comfortable with it. Almost desensitize them. From it a little bit.
Desensitize them. Just say, you know what, guys? I think we're lacking some candor in our team. And I think we could be a much more productive team if we were all open and honest.
I almost think that bonus one needs to be first.
Yeah.
Start with the bonus and then move into your other 3.
Yeah, and I'm leaving it last because I'm hoping people will actually, if they take one thing away, there's one.
Nice. Good setup. It's good setup.
There you
Okay,
go.
all right. So we're nearing the end of our time. And I ask every guest this question. So give us one life hack that can help us either personally or professionally have a life just a little less dysfunctional, a little more free from dysfunction.
Yeah, so I think this helps both personally and professionally, and that is exercise, physical activity. It is so important that you get some form of exercise on a daily basis. And this is something, I'll be honest with you, I most of my life I was not good at this, but about 9 years ago, I started really small. I said, you know what? It was a New Year's resolution, actually. It was kind of funny. I made with my son. I said, I need to do something. Let's do it together. Let's make a New Year's resolution. We said, we'll do 100 repetitions of something every day, whether it's 100 jumping jacks or 50 jumping jacks and 50 sit-ups or anything, just something. And so I started with that.
100?
Just 100. And it could be
something every day.
Yeah, 10 of this, 10 of that. Just add up 100 of something every day. It takes all of 10 minutes. So I started that, and that got me in a routine every morning of doing something, and it just built and it built, and it made such a difference in my life. And of course, it's grown much more than 10 or 100 repetitions of things. But for everybody, it doesn't matter what it is, but it's the physical activity. It's so important for your body, mind, and soul.
Yeah, so physical activity, and for you having that measurement helped really start to hold you accountable.
For me, it wasn't as much as the measurement as it was just the routine every day. And now I've got a routine. I go to the gym every day. And when I don't, I can tell later in the day that something's missing.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
It makes me a grumpier person.
Keith, this is great. Thank you so much for spending time with us today, helping us create a life a little less dysfunctional, a little more healthy, and a little more candid.
Thanks for having me.
So yeah,
really enjoyed it.
We're breaking our meetings into smaller groups. We're having a Yoda. We're going to teach caring criticism. And above all else, we're going to start talking about the need for candor to help moving us. And then we're going to get exercise in addition to all that.
That's right.
And thank you for listening and for joining us. Join us every single Tuesday as we continue our fight against dysfunction. And follow us on Twitter at the WP Therapist for the Workplace Therapist. And every Tuesday at 9 a.m., a new episode, 9 a.m. Eastern, a new episode is on Facebook at facebook.com/Brandon Smith WPT. Until next week, until then, have an awesome week and an awesome life. I'm Brandon Smith, and I'm the Workplace Therapist. My entire purpose and passion in life is one singular thing, and that's to help you live a life free from dysfunction. And let's be honest, folks, dysfunction is everywhere. Our bosses, our coworkers, our neighbors, even that grumpy barista that pours your coffee. And sometimes, that dysfunction stares back at us in the face when we're getting ready in the mornings and we see ourselves in the mirror. Well, at the end of the day, life and work should not have to suck. The purpose of this show is to help you overcome those roadblocks in your life to help you realize the life you've always wanted.